This video walks through how to download and install Anaconda, the 2024-02 release. That is the February 2024 release. So we go to anaconda.com/download and click the download button. And I'm using Chrome, and we see that Anaconda 2022-04 is downloading for me. And now it's done. So I will pull up my file manager in my download directory. Here we go. And here is the installation program that I've just downloaded. Anaconda3 2024.02. I'll double click that. And there's a certain amount of waiting involved as you're doing this installation. I'll clip out some of the waiting time. All right, here we go. So, welcome to Anaconda3 2024.02 setup. Mostly we're going to choose defaults here. So I'm going to click Next. End user license agreement. I'm going to click I agree. Installation type. I'm going to install it for just me, which is, I'm the only user of my machine anyway. So I'll take the default and click Next. To install in a different folder, click Browse. I'm perfectly satisfied with the default, which in my case is Users, J. Ostland, Anaconda3. So I'll take the default and click Next. Create Start Menu Shortcuts. I do want that to be checked. Add Anaconda3 to my path. It says this is not recommended. I'm going to leave it unchecked in case I have other versions of Python available on my system that I already use. Register Anaconda3 as my default Python version 3.11. I will go ahead and leave that checked. Clear the package cache upon completion. Recommended, recovers some disk space. You can go ahead and check that. I guess I will check that myself. And now we click Install, and now we have a lot of waiting to do. So I'm going to clip out a bunch of time here until the installation is completed. All right, finally we got to installation complete. For me, that took about 5 minutes. May take more time or less time for you on your machine. I'll click Next again. Everything you love, blah, 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 Jupyter Notebook. I don't want to code in the cloud. I want everything to be on my own machine, so I'm going to just click Next. Here are some useful resources to get you started. Launch Anaconda Navigator, getting started with Anaconda distribution. I'm going to uncheck these. You can leave them checked and read through that stuff if you are interested, but I'm just going to go ahead and click Finish. Okay, and so I have now successfully installed Anaconda on my machine. When I go to my Start menu, now of course I'm using Windows. If you're using a Mac, you will actually want to use the Anaconda Navigator. I'll go down to my Start menu here, and here we have Anaconda 3, 64-bit. if I click the down arrow, I'll see the various individual things that have been installed. Anaconda Navigator, PowerShell prompt, ordinary Anaconda prompt, Jupyter Notebook, reset, and Spider. The things that I'm going to care about are going to be the Anaconda Navigator, Anaconda prompt, Jupyter Notebook. That's optional. I'll let you use it if you want. I'm not going to make use of it. And Spider, which is what I recommend as an integrated development environment if you want to stick with the things that come with Anaconda. All right, so I am going to right-click on Anaconda prompt and pin that to my start menu. All right, Anaconda prompt, and I'm going to right-click on Spider and pin that to my start menu as well. There we go. So these are the two things that I am going to be most concerned with. Now I actually want these in my taskbar as well. So pin to taskbar, more, pin to taskbar. And so now I can access the Anaconda prompt and Spider directly from my taskbar. Let me fire up the Anaconda Navigator so that you can see what that is. On a Windows machine, you don't really need it, but on a Mac you will. So under Anaconda, when I click Anaconda Navigator, this typically takes several seconds to start up. And what it will show you is icons, a window of icons that you can click on to start the various software that comes as part of the Anaconda package. And it has to do a whole bunch of configuring the first time you run it. It even has to do some reconfiguring each time you run it, so it can be a little slow to get going. There we go. All right. Anaconda data catalogs. I really don't care. I'm going to close this thing. Here we go. So I have Jupyter Notebook. If you're familiar with Jupyter Notebook, you can use that. I have the PowerShell prompt. Here's the ordinary command.exe prompt. I'm not a PowerShell person, so the command.exe is the command interface that I would tend to use. And then I have the Spider integrated development environment. If you're familiar with VS Code, at least in theory, you can do Python programming in VS Code. I'm not sure what might be involved as far as configuring that. So I'm not going to use it myself, and I'm not going to promise to support it for you, but if you want to give it a try, you're welcome to. So let me first launch the command exe prompt. This is going to give me an ordinary Anaconda prompt like my terminal down here. I'll click launch. That's it. Okay, it's just an ordinary command.com window. And from within here, I can run this ancient, crummy integrated development environment called idle. Now, idle is pretty terrible. The most recent version is somewhat less terrible than older versions used to be. You will almost certainly want to use Spider instead, or possibly Jupyter Notebooks or VS Code or whatever. I like to use idle because idle is so extremely plain. There are not a whole bunch of icons and slider bars and menus and whatnot to get in the way of just talking about plain old Python. All right, the three greater than symbols over here on the left, that's my Python shells prompt, and I can do clever things like defining a variable a to refer to the integer value 123. And if I ask to see what a refers to, I get told, well, G, it refers to 123. If I ask what B refers to, I haven't established B to refer to anything, so I get told that B is not defined. Okay? If I want to get out of the idle integrated development environment shell, I can say quit with parentheses, and that will get me out. I'm asked for confirmation. I'm going to say OK, and now I'm out. Okay, so that's the command.exe prompt. Let me launch Spider. This also is going to take some time to come up, but it's a nicer interface than plain old idle. Spider version 5. Load, 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 load. And here we go. It came up on a different screen for me, but here it is. And what idle has is an editing window in the left half of the screen and the interactive shell window in the lower right part of the screen. This is the so-called console window. So over here in the console window, I can say A gets 123 and display the value that A refers to, display the value that B refers to, and I get told B is not defined. I can quit by clicking the X in the upper right corner, or I can say File, Quit. The advantage of having the code file in the left side as well as the shell in the lower right side is that you can write programs and see what they do when they run all on a single screen. Let me erase all this mess that's currently here. This is in a file called temp.py. .py is the extension for program code. And let me, in my code file, say A gets 123. Now, when I say gets, that means the single equal sign. And now I'm going to print the value of A. The print function is how you can display values onto the user's terminal. In this case, that means the console terminal. I'm going to say File, Save. And so now I have saved temp.py. And I can go up here and say Run, Run. And yay! This file gets handed off to an interactive shell. It is executed. The variable A gets created, and the value 123 is set up as the value that A refers to. And then when we print the value of A, we get 123 displayed as output. Okay, so there's a lot more to know about Spider, but that's a very brief introduction. I'm going to exit from Spider now. Okay, and I'm going to also exit from the Anaconda Navigator. All right, so since I have the Anaconda prompt in my taskbar, and I also have Spider in my taskbar, on Windows, it's easy for me to launch those things. On a Mac, you'll need to pull up the Anaconda Navigator and launch these applications from within the Anaconda Navigator. Okay, so that is a very brief introduction to how to download and install and get started using Anaconda and namely the command prompt with the old-fashioned idle shell, as well as the much more up-to-date and more convenient Spider integrated development environment. Okay.